And Fantasy Author's Handbook is back. That must mean I'm Phil. Today we're going to do this thing. We're going to finally do the thing I've been promising. We're going to look at the giant random paperback to be read shelf pile stacks, whatever you want to call them. If you've seen my month-end videos, you know I've talked about them. If you've seen the big eBay book hauls, you've heard me talk about the random TBR pile. This is it. We're going to get into this. We're going to talk about where this came from, why I even have this, how I access these books, etc. Strap in. There's 400 of them, or thereabouts. Probably a little bit more than 400. All right, let's go. The random paperback grab bag begins. Okay, let's go. So this all started as a blog post, Fantasy Author's Handbook blog post, on December 30th of 2014. Are we really coming up on 10 years of the random sci-fi paperback grab bag? We are. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to, there's too many of them. I'm not going to talk about them in detail each. I'm just going to grab one, show it to you real quick, put it back in a stack, keep going and going and going until we're done, and just kind of talk about why this thing exists. Okay? You can see they're all just stacked up. Boom, 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 boom. And you can see behind, right? So there's these that are sticking out this way. And behind, in another configuration, because the shelf is just exactly that deep, are 4 more stacks that lead all the way up to this. I don't know how high this is. Couple, 2.5 feet, maybe? Anyway. If you watch the ridiculously long anthology paperback grab bag, you will recognize these. So I'm not going to spend tons of time on these. Tons and tons. I just bought a box of like 50 something and made a 2-hour video. So go there, see all these. Alpha 9 by Robert Silverberg, edited by Robert Silverberg, as is Alpha 4, right? Anthologies of science fiction stories. And we remember that an anthology, ooh, this is cool. An anthology is a collection of short stories by different authors. And a collection is a collection of short stories by the same author. Whatever. This is The Memory Bank by Wallace West, a science fiction novel of time and worlds to come. See, okay, so in 1997, I moved from suburban Chicago, where I was commuting all the way to southern Wisconsin to work at Lake Geneva at TSR. And when I got to Seattle, Robert E. Howard, Call, first complete edition. Bane, how groovy is that? I've discovered used bookstores, which are just all over the entire Seattle area. Not everything is science fiction or fantasy. I love this movie. Always wanted to read the book. It came in a big book haul, I think, and here it is. When I get to it, I'll get to that. And anyway, I started buying used books at a massive clip. Just every weekend. Here's a Western ace double. I don't really collect the Westerns, but I have, I think, a couple. Double Cross and Arrow on one side, Lost Valley on the other. They also did ace double mysteries. You'll see one of those. Anyway, I started going to these used bookstores and just buying these things for super cheap. Anything that struck my fancy. Like this Spider-Woman in color. Stan Lee presents. Of course he does. How cool is that? Just bought them and bought them and bought them. Anything that struck my fancy that looked cool, that had a great cover. Look at that cover. The Great Explosion by Eric Frank Russell. Masters of science fiction. Absolutely. And then I was reading them. Actually, all of these I read. I haven't read any of these. These are all to be read. But I read them at random every month. Right? And so eventually I just had tons and tons. The year's best European SF. Really crusty old edition of Daw. And I just kept buying and buying and buying until I had so many. Eventually I just had nowhere to put them. A classic. How have I not read this yet? It's insane. I've had this book for ages and ages. And so I got this idea, put them in a box and then pick them out at random and just read them. Yeah, again, Tell All by Chuck Palahniuk. Not all science fiction, mostly science fiction and fantasy. A lot of horror in here too, but then also, right, other things, including Of Human Bondage by Somerset Maugham. Am I too shaky? This is kind of hurting my arm to hold this up. I'll switch configurations as we go just because it hurts me to sit on the floor. But it's okay. I go through the pain for you. I'm okay. I won't hurt myself, I promise. Sun's End by Richard Lupoff. Super cool cover. Let's get a picture of that right. Astronaut floating. Obviously something has gone horribly, horribly wrong. Wrap cover. Dynamite. What was I saying? So I thought, what if I put them all in a big box? And so I documented the creation of that for the blog. Links for all of this stuff below in the description. Go read that blog post. Not a lot has changed except I don't have them all in a box anymore. I have them all here, as you see. And Stan Lee presents again. Well, of course I have Fantastic Four. I am a Fantastic Four fan. I have a great collection of Fantastic Four that I bought from the spinner rack when I was a kid. Great, great stuff. It really was and continues to be the world's greatest comic magazine. But anyway, so now I have them here. Look at this. Oh, Fletcher Pratt. Right? Fantastic. Invaders from Rigel. And this thing that I would do, right, I would go to used bookstores and just kind of wander the science fiction paperback section. And then I would just sort of like, oh, what's that? I pull that out, and if I saw artwork like this, I just bought it. Just bought it automatically. Because there's nothing about the cover of this book that says, Phil, you won't like that. Just the opposite. It's like, Phil, this was made for you. This is a Phil book. Buy the book, Phil. And so I did. Because I'm an American and I can do whatever I want. And so now, anyway, I have these all in stacks. There's 10 stacks. And so when I finish one from this pile, All the Colors of Darkness, Lloyd Biggle Jr., kind of a classic, this one, yeah. 5 Hideous Things. Right? That is what makes me pay like 50 cents or whatever I paid for this book. Why would I not? Lloyd Biggle Jr. Fantastic. So what I do is I roll because gamer life, everybody. D&D life. Tabletop role-playing games. Stop it. I roll a 10-sided die, and it tells me this is 1. Back here is 1. 2, 3, 4 is in the back. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So D10 tells me which stack. Then a 6-sided die, if it's 1, 2, 3, I count from the top down. If it's 4, 5, 6, I count from the bottom up. And then a 20-sided die gets me 1 through 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right down. And I just pull that book out, and I read it. And I've been doing that for a while now, by the way. And then also adding to the stacks as I go. Lee Modesitt, L.E. Modesitt. Junior Hayes. So not all of these are super old, right? This is actually relatively recent. There's very few that will be this recent, right? This was the first mass market edition from 2010. The first edition of this book was 2009. This might be among the newer ones. It's just, anything that I hear is good. Also just stuff that comes my way and whatever, however, whenever. Does it have to be science fiction, fantasy? Nope. Again, Johnny Got His Gun by Dalton Trumbo. Here's another Western, right? Not a lot of Westerns. We've seen one already, but here's another one. The Trident Brand by G. Clifton Weisler. Weisler? A Delamere Western. I'm not going to buy the entire series. I'm just going to read that one. When it comes up completely at random. Let's just keep looking at these. Dan Galoy? I should probably know how to pronounce his name. Sorry about that, Dan. Sphere Science Fiction. Look at this UK edition. This is where I kind of come across one of those. Dark Universe. Again, oh, man. Have you noticed that the British books from around this time period had way more boobies than American books? Just saying. What's up? What's going on? United Kingdom. United Kingdom of boobies. Oh Lord. This one came up in one of the book hauls, and this is the edition of this book, Gateway, that I read when I was a kid. Downstairs, I have an autographed copy of the Science Fiction Book Club hardcover edition. I adore this book. This is one of my favorite science fiction books of all time. And when I got it, I thought, well, I already have a copy of it. And of course, I read it, but I read it a million years ago, like a long time ago. Like when it was brand new. And I thought, no, put that in there, because won't it be exciting when randomly, right, I land on stack 5 and count up or down, and I get to Gateway, and I'm like, oh, I'm rereading that for the first time in 45 years? Wow. I'm so old. Oh, Lord. Some of them still have the half-price books sticker on them. How much did I pay for this? Can I get it to focus? No, because my hand is so shaky it won't. It was $1. I paid $1 for Cemetery World by Clifford Simak. Why wouldn't I pay $1 for Cemetery World by Clifford Simak? And we've talked about Clifford Simak. There he is. Big Clifford Simak fan. Another book from the gigantic, ridiculous, feature-length sci-fi anthology haul video, Impact 20, by William. Oh no, this isn't. Oh no, I was mistaking this. This is not an anthology. This is a collection of stories by William F. Nolan, right? It is. And with an introduction by Ray Bradbury and this badass mid-century modern kind of semi-Abex cover. Dynamite. This one we talked about in one of the book hauls. This is the first Lord Tedrick book by Gordon Eklund, kind of apparently based on some sort of lost manuscript or outline or whatever from E. Doc Smith. This is number 1 in the series. When this comes up at random, if I like it, I'll buy the rest of the series. This one had, don't put stickers on. This has sticker damage. This one kind of gives you a range, right, of the kind of material you're going to see in here. Although I don't know that this is necessarily out of character with all the fantasy stuff that's in here, right? Like Lord Tedrick we just saw. Definitely a different brand of fantasy, that's for sure. Huh? Here's one that I bought on purpose, because this is maybe the earliest science fiction novel predating even Frankenstein, Star, Cassiopeia, where they actually travel to another planet somewhere. This one is, I don't know, this was written really, really a crazy long time ago in France. I believe it was France. I'm trying to remember it was France. You can hear me turning the pages for someone to tell me it was. Was this originally published in 1854, so it does not predate Frankenstein. Oh, Mary Shelley for the win. She invented it. She invented it. But this is definitely an early example. Cool cover, too. I will randomly read that. The Walker in Shadows by Barbara Michaels. It had come from the grave, and it would not return alone. Why would it return alone? You don't want to return to the grave alone. What kind of zombie are you? The Mind Warpers by Eric Frank Russell. How awesome is that cover? Do I remember buying this? When did I get this? How did I get this? I don't even know. Ooh, look at the little teeny weeny cover copy there. This is just like a history of science fiction and fantasy and just paperback, mass market paperback art and presentation, which is why. All right, so that's the shortest of the 10 stacks. And I'm going to reconfigure a little bit so that I will be able to walk after making this video. And I'm going to cut here, and we're going to get on to, this was actually technically stack 5 for me. We're going to do 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then the first 4 afterwards, because I don't know. We set systems for ourselves, and then we go with the system. Be right back. I'm back. Slightly different configuration here, bending over. Hopefully I don't pass out. For the next stack, Dawn of Prophecy, book 1 of the Belgariad. Just like Lord Tedrick, if I like it, if it comes up at random. When it comes up at random, it's always when, not if. By David Eddings. If I like it, I will get the rest of the series. I know people are like, oh, Elsfried de Camp, yes, no, maybe. Who doesn't buy this book? I don't know. How do you get this and just not go like, yes, Tower of Xanid. Xanid, doesn't matter. How just like 1980 D&D is this? Fantastic. Pilgrimage to Earth by Robert Sheckley. I've read a bunch of Robert Sheckley. He's good. Was this in a book haul video? I don't remember. It's crazy. There's so many of these that I've collected for so long, I honestly don't remember where I got them. All right, the great Fred Saberhagen, Changeling Earth, another mega win cover. This one I've had for a long time. I have moved this from different box to that box, the other box to this shelf. I'm almost tempted to pull this out, but if I start doing that, I'm going to have tons of pullouts. The Wonder War by Lawrence M. Janifer. I'm not breathing too hard, am I? Another half-price books sticker. Get out, I paid 25 cents. I paid 25 cents for this copy of The Green Brain by Frank Herbert. I don't know, man. I don't know why that tickled me right there. 25 cents worth of Frank Herbert. The best from Fantasy and Science Fiction 7th series. Yeah, I think we talked about this in the anthology video. Notice I'm just kind of tossing these in little stacks on the ground next to it, or the floor next to it. If they go back in a different order, that's okay, because the ID is random. Right? Why do I have this? Where did I get this? It doesn't matter. And On the Eighth Day by Ellery Queen. Perhaps the most unusual detective novel of our time. And our time must have been like the mid-1950s. I don't know. I'm not going to look at all of these. Laser books. People collect these just because they were numbered, but they're not all together. The Ecologue by R. Faraday Nelson. Okay. I will randomly experience what R. Faraday Nelson has to offer us. The Moon Pool by A. Merritt. I'm almost tempted to pull this one out too, but I shouldn't. Don't do it. It's a classic. I know I haven't read it yet, but it's crazy. Really nice Collier edition of that too. Okay, so remember I collect books that I intend to read, not necessarily because of the condition. This one's in very rough shape. The History of the Future. But, right? Brian Aldiss, Galaxies Like Grains of Sand. Just read a book by Jack Williamson. Who doesn't love the great Jack Williamson? Darker Than You Think. Right? Talk about just perfect vintage fantasy artwork. Somewhere there was a conversion van with that on the side of it, I'm sure. R.A. Lafferty. Always fun to find R.A. Lafferty out in the wild. The Reefs of Earth. Very brightly colored. I was saying condition-wise, don't care. I'm going to read it. As long as it's intact, I read it. I have it. I hold on to it forever. It may be forever that I read all these. Brother to Demons. Brother to Gods by, again, Jack Williamson. So if I have about 400 of these, right, and I read one, I think being honest with myself, I kind of read one every month. It's maybe 3 to 4 weeks-ish, somewhere in there. So that's like 33 years worth of books. Don't judge. Don't judge me. Instead of judging me, look at how awesome the cover of this book by Damon Knight is. Turning On. Orange. Fantastic. I know I definitely talked about this in a previous video. Remember the Texas-Israeli War of 1999? Oh, man. How did we live through that? Bob Shaw. I just buy Bob Shaw books now when I find them. Ground Zero, man. Is this one that I should pull out and just make up more of a point to read? Probably. And by the way, if you're seeing books like Lord Kelvin of Otherwen by H. Beam Piper, and you're like, Phil, oh my God, you got to read that right now. Or I read that and it was so terrible, it made me cry. Comments. If it was so terrible it made you cry, I'm not going to throw it away or sell it. It's still going to be in here. I will have forgotten that you said that, 20 years from now. And I will make my own decisions just like you did. The Rimworld Legacy by F.A. Havor? I don't know. But again, slim little groovy vintage signet thing. I just bought it. I just buy it because it looks cool. I think I have read all the other Ringworld or the, sort of beginning of the Ringworld series up to here. And then I bought this because it was the next one and never did get around to reading it. So it's just been sitting there. Larry Niven. The Ringworld Throne. We'll get to it when I get to it. So I did buy a box actually on eBay now I think of it, of books by Jack Williamson. So that's why you're seeing kind of a trend of Jack Williamson books. Manseed. Why? Oh. Okay. This is another one I've had sitting in this box / pile stacks for a long time. The Mind Blocked Man by Jeff Sutton. Nice condition DAW book. Not, the spine's faded. There's a lot, it's not faded, but it's a little turned and it's not in great shape. But look at how yellow the spine is. Sometimes those fade to actually just completely white. New Writings in SF2. I also had and pulled out randomly and read New Writings in SF1 just fairly recently. Why do I have this? I have never read anything by Agatha Christie. I own 2 of her books, including this one. And then There Were None, which is clearly a really recent edition. The Queen of Mystery. I'll get to Agatha Christie at random. Are we getting 80s here? Are we getting 80s fantasy? Raymond D. Feist. Magician Apprentice. Pretty thick book. I don't know. When it comes up at random, I will read it. And, here's the thing, right? I'm a free person. And if I start reading something and it just doesn't work for me, I don't want to, I don't like it for whatever reason, I can DNF stuff. I don't know why I'm setting up that Raymond Feist book for that. I should not be doing that. I will give it its full attention when it shows up. Warlord's World by Christopher Anvil. Another nice yellow DAW. Ooh, I remember this in one of the previous videos. To Live Forever by Jack Vance. I'm a Jack Vance fan. Find the video where I went through all these, the Boris cover for Davy, Edgar Pangborn. And I talked about being an Edgar Pangborn fan because I am. I was led to believe that his name is pronounced Nurse. Alan E. Nurse. Scavengers in Space. Fantastic. Love that cover. Love. Classic sci-fi art. One of my lovely Ace editions. I love these really thinner Ace editions, old Ace editions. The Trial of Terra. There's Jack Williamson again. Extremely prolific and very, very long career. And no, they are not all science fiction or fantasy. Right? Saul Bellow. Why not Saul Bellow? You can hear me breathing heavy. I'm going to try to reconfigure. I'll be right back. All right, and continuing with this would be stack number 6, right? Yes. Mac Reynolds with Dean Ing. Cool, right? Death Wish World. This was definitely on one of those book haul videos. Links will be here, or you just go to my page and find those. The big eBay book haul videos and the 2-hour eBay science fiction fantasy anthology haul video. You'll enjoy those. I promise. Another Mac Reynolds Space Search. Fantastic. Just gadget cover. What's not to love? Another one that has been on a recent haul video, John Jakes on Wheels. I kind of knew Jay Lake a little bit. We did some work together and stuff. I really loved Mainspring you know what I mean, Mainspring, and bought the sequel and just had not read it, and it sat there. The late great Jay Lake, really one of the kind of steampunk masters. If you have not yet discovered Jay Lake, please do so. And again, this one is much more recent, from 2008. This edition 2009. So it's not all like from the 50s, 60s, and 70s, although much of these are. You know what? I'm not usually like, I love funny genre stuff. In fact, I normally hate funny genre stuff, but Ron Goulart does it for me somehow. This one we talked about. Who is this again? Now I can't even remember. I think this is Dean Koontz. Right? Shadow Fires. This is on one of those haul videos. One of those paperbacks from hell kind of era of paperback horror. I hope you can hear this because I'm moving around away from the microphone and stuff. So I don't know. Just look at the amazing stuff, like Empire of the East by Fred Saberhagen, and a weird, like, ghostly elephant behind the tank. Elgis Boudry said it was the work of a master. And who am I to argue with Elgis Boudry? Oh, who isn't nostalgic for the B. Dalton price sticker? Even then, this was only 75 cents. I think this was in one of the book hauls. 7 Footprints to Satan by the great Abraham Merritt. That's another really old one. If you heard creaking, it's my chair just trying to say, Phil, stop doing what you're doing. And the Ace Science Fiction Special, The Eclipse of Dawn by Gordon Eklund. A lot of people are starting to collect these Ace Science Fiction Specials. I think they're groovy, but again, for me, this one is more about just, I'm a Gordon Eklund fan. I'll say that out loud. And I just want to read the book. And I will at random sometime in the next 33 years. After Things Fall Apart, in the same A Science Fiction Special trade dress, by Ron Goulart. Okay. Yes, please. This one's kind of weird. You know, welcome to the 80s. Bone Dance by Emma Bull, author of Falcon. No idea, no offense to Emma Bull, but there it is. That was stack number 5. Should we just keep going? Are we okay? Let's reconfigure. Be right back. And the next stack. Now I'm just going. I have no more stories really to tell, right? I just have a giant shelf full of books all stacked up that I choose from randomly. I finish one, then I choose another one. The Case of the Demure Defendant by Earl Stanley Gardner. It's a Perry Mason novel. For a while there, Earl Stanley Gardner was the most successful novelist in America. You've heard of Perry Mason. Here's Jack Williamson again. I mentioned I did buy a box of books by Jack Williamson. And why wouldn't I? Life Burst. Something is happening in space there. The Ultimate Test. Groovy. Another one, much more recent than, most of what we've seen. This has been recommended to me a ton of times. Picked it up on Amazon. Was like, oh, it's a mass market. I didn't realize that. Well, with the rest of the mass markets, the Holy Machine goes. I promise to read it when it comes up at random. Oh, right. Unbelievably fantastic. The Solarians. Could Palmer trust the Solarians' plan of surrendering Earth to its enemy? Norman Spinrad. I haven't read that book. I will read it at random. Oh my God, we're about to have a huge problem. I've just been sort of stacking these up in a way that's extremely not. Oh, God bless America. Well, they all fell down. And now they're okay. It's okay. We're going to keep going. And these are now going to be mixed up some more than they were before. And that's fine because they are random, including this one, which we did see recently on a book haul video, Swords of Lankhmar, which I read as a kid. Oh my God, I read this in high school. I'm sure Fritz Lieber. Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser. Right. Inspiration for a lot of D&D stuff. Escape to Earth. Science fiction novelettes. Good lineup there. Harry Harrison. Planet of the Damned. Again, just, love this era of these sci-fi cityscapes. Just tremendous. This is a UK orbit, right? From back in the day. Lovely. Here's Theodore Sturgeon. Away Home. Magnificent science fiction selected and with an introduction by Groff Conklin. Love short stories. Why not? The 4-Day Weekend, George Henry Smith. Who? Don't know, but look at that cover. Why would you not buy that? Why would you not buy that? What happens to a man when a woman is the boss, even in the 21st century? I'm puzzled to find out what that would be like. I don't think I've ever had a boss, maybe once or twice in my life, that wasn't a woman. Anyway, 10 Plays by Euripides. Why? Why not? Anyway, when I lived in Chicago, there was a tailor shop in Greektown in Chicago that we would always go to. The guy's name was Euripides Imenides. What the hell is wrong with Phil? Good Neighbors and Other Strangers, Edgar Pangborn. Mystical science fiction. We saw this in the big anthology book haul. That's a collection because it's by the same author, but you know what I mean. Natives of Space by Hal Clement. Another just great. So with these Valentine covers. This one kind of a kimbo here. Just rocket ships. Why not rocket ships? We need more rocket ships. Whence the Rocket Ship. The Last Days of the Edge of the World by Brian Stableford. Another sort of great kind of 80s-ish cover. The Wizard's Daughter. I would love to play that D&D module. The Iger Sanction. We definitely talked about this one. Saw and loved the Clint Eastwood movie a million years ago, right? Now the spectacular movie, like 1975. Was in one of the big book hauls. It's kind of tucked in with a bunch of science fiction stuff. Maybe the person who was selling those thought it was science fiction. It's kind of a, espionage thing, but why not, right? The book might be really as good as the movie. Who knows? A Trace of Dreams by Gordon Eklund. Remember we talked about Gordon Eklund being awesome? And then the cityscape and just so cool, this cover art. I just buy books because I like the covers, and I have no problem admitting that. Why not? That's why I love the artifacts. That's why I collect all these things. Even if they end up getting stuck in a shelf like this where no one can see them. That's terrible. I wish I could do something about that, but I can't. Anyway, Colony Fleet by Susan R. Matthews. Again, another one that's a little bit more on the recent side-ish, or at least it looks like it. The Astonishing Worlds of Susan R. Matthews. Are we doing this? Are we looking? We're not going to do this. First Eon paperback printing October 2000. So that's already. If by recent you mean 24 years old, then sure. Dragon's Island. The strange story of a warped, superior race, one that's threatened to supersede mankind. And it's like a dinosaur? 1970. This is not a typical science fiction story. All right. Jack Williamson. Right, that was in that Jack Williamson box. I remember that, and it's awesome. I haven't read it, but I know that it's awesome. Ian Wallace, A Voyage to Dari, A Cosmic Extravagance. Oh, kind of a stern-looking fella there. But again, the Daw spine, all yellow, is nice. So, I don't know. I'll read that, and if I kind of like it and don't want to keep it, there's Daw collectors out there who will buy it from me on eBay. You're welcome, America. Another non-genre, non-SF fantasy, The Blue Max by Jack D. Hunter. A classic, right, of a World War I flying ace variety. Martians, go home. Oh, you Martians. Frederick Brown. Ooh, look at this. This one's kind of chunky. Look, this is a big one. Operation Long Life by E. Hoffman Price. Looks like military sci-fi stuff. Why not? It's the first time in print. The Calivide is a spellbinding saga by Lou Goebel. This artwork could totally be reused now for so many fantasy novels. Romance novels. Look at that. See, everybody, ladies in particular, it's not all just about female body dysmorphia. You know, we're under a certain amount of pressure over on this side of the aisle as well. Trust me. I look exactly like this, by the way. This is exactly my physique. You can't see it because it's under my protective outer covering, but this is exactly what I look like. I have that wig too. Shut up. You don't know. Don't judge me. Mac Reynolds, After Utopia. Bios by Robert Charles Wilson. Look at that foil cover there, right? It's called foil because that's what it actually is. It's a thin sheet of foil that comes through, and then it goes kapow, and it just stamps it right onto the cover, which is why you'll also see that it's embossed. This is just expensive, right? This costs money. Torb spent money to make this book happen. So anyway, what did James Cameron rip off for Avatar? I don't know. What are we talking about? Raiders from the Eames. There's Alan Nurse again. Nurse. Raiders from the Rings. They struck from the stars in a space war that doomed mankind. Look at that. Oh, God. Rocket ships. Spaceman. Yes, please. Pyramid books. My parents were big John D. McDonald fan. Look at how programmed I am as an American to just automatically say McDonald's. I've read a couple of his books, and they are really, fantastic, old school, manly, right? Creator of the best-selling Travis McGee series. They used to have all of them. I don't know what happened to them. I wish that I had them now. John D. McDonald, one of the greats of that, just sort of, what would you call it, kind of pulp noir mystery crime thing. Chung Guo, the acclaimed epic of the future. This is basically future China, right? And I remember this got a lot of people were really talking about this a lot. So when I found a nice-ish used copy, I was like, ooh, okay. And then it's been here for years. It's been here for years. It doesn't matter. It's been here for maybe 10 years. Maybe less than that. Maybe a couple more years than that. Whatever. This is another one where I feel like, why am I should pull this out and just read it immediately. As soon as this went into my hand, I was like, I should just start reading this right now. Cthulhu Mythos Stories by Robert E. Howard. Why not, y'all? Why not? Hopefully it doesn't take me 30 years to get to that. Oh, pardon me. So attractive. The Centauri Device, a novel by M. John Harrison. Groovy, right? And again, just, oh, rocket ships. Anything with a rocket ship is good. That's my theme song. Oh, I accidentally pulled because of the stupid stickers that don't put stickers on stupid. Oh. It's ruined, and also there's still sticky on it. The Hamelin Plague. You can't see A. Bertram Chandler's name on there. That was not good in terms of design. The art is cool, though. Look at the, oh, it's like a giant rat. What? And then the people are like, oh, Johnny, help me. I'm so scared. Marooned on Mars by the great Lester Del Rey. I mean, Lester Del Rey, right? Oh, Lord. Spaceman versus Little Green Men. Really? Yes. Really. Slowly, the rodent-like creatures of the red planet advance toward Chuck Svensson. Oh, Chuck Svensson. Chuck Svensson is our hero. He will save us from the little green rat men of Mars. Just, I don't know. I mean, is it just my inner child is that active as I approach 60? It's just crazy that this just, love. I love it. I love it so much I'm going to hit my iPhone with it. All right, anyway, Boris Karloff presents more Tales of the Frightened. I'm sure Boris Karloff really, really worked hard on this book. Don't be afraid. All you can lose is your mind. What if? Good question. Richard A. Lupoff, editor. Did we look at this in the anthology hall, or is this from earlier times? Somebody checked off like each one that they read in the different years, too, right? Through the 50s. One Ordinary Day with Peanuts by Shirley Jackson. That's cool. This is a great lineup, actually. Kate Wilhelm, Cyril Kornbluth. What if? What if I actually read that book? I bet I would enjoy it. Lord Dunsany, fantastic. At the Edge of the World. I've read some Lord Dunsany before. It's all good. One of the originators of really the fantasy, what we know of as fantasy. Tolkien read him, right? Lovecraft read him. Lord Dunsany. I hereby proclaim myself Lord Phil. From now on, that's how I must be addressed. R.A. Lafferty, Annals of Klepsis. I definitely held this up in one of the book haul videos. R.A. Lafferty. Will be read at random. Definitely remember this one from the book, or the anthology haul, where I talked about the bicentennial in July of 1976. This is the DAW special anniversary number 200, but you can see how this is faded, right? I held up some that were like super, super bright and perfect. Here's one right here that I can do this on the fly. The one on the bottom here was the same yellow, but yellow when you expose it, the yellow ink when you expose it to sunlight just goes away. This one on the bottom is basically completely white. You would not know that this was once bright yellow. So many things can affect your books. Keep them away from direct sunlight. Keep them away from water, for goodness sake, or other liquids. Don't smoke, people. Don't smoke. Saltflower by Sidney Van Sciyoc. What a name. I hope that's his real name. I need a Van. I'm just going to put Van in the middle of my name now. From now on, I'm Van. I'm Lord Philip Van Athens. You're welcome. Sci-fi cityscape. Beautiful in blue. Delightful. Hell's Pavement by Damon Knight. This one I definitely held up in one of the book hauls recently. Science fiction classic. Or so I am led to believe. I'm just going to grab these so that I don't have to keep leaning down. James Blish, The Testament of Andros. The best science fiction stories of James Blish. Is the UK Arrow edition, right? Isn't this the UK edition? I believe it is. If it isn't, it doesn't matter. I'm sorry, but look at that. Cover of rocket ships. Fantastic. Earth Magic. The fantasy boom has begun in a big way. Men in loincloths having a sword fight. Sure. Alexei and Corey Panshin. Okay, you know what, right? So I read the Diamond Age, and everybody's like, no, Snow Crash is better, so I bought it, and I kept looking at it like, oh, it's too long, and I don't like long. And so it ended up in here, and eventually at random, I will read Snow Crash by Neil Stephenson, I promise. I promise very much, I promise. I have been promising, and I will promise again in the future. This is really obnoxious. This is just bad filmmaking, where I actually move the camera and you have to go like, Phil, you're wobbling it. You're wobbling it. Next stack. Look at how high up this goes. It's like a giant tower of books. Isn't it the best thing ever? A dog with the spine still yellow. Jack Vance, The Many Worlds of Magnus Rudolph. We looked at this one in a previous video for sure. And I think we did too with Dolphin Island by Arthur C. Clarke. Who, at some point, well, right after the movie, and immediately after the movie was released, it was the author of 2001. I love underwater sci-fi. I mean, is this just like a giant octopus or something? Oh, why would I not read that? Why would you not read that? You better read that. Damn it. I don't know. I'm an Arthur C. Clarke fan, which is my new invented language for I've been an Arthur C. Clarke. Oh, forget it. 6 great short novels of science fiction. Nice big chunky, beautiful Dell first edition. Theodore Sturgeon, James Blish, Murray Leinster, Robert Heinlein, everybody. Terrific. That distracted me from not being able to speak earlier. And also kicking the tripod and doing all the other bad things. But I'm just going to keep going. The invaders are coming, and if you don't keep going, they're going to get you. There's Alan E. Nurse again. And J.A. Meyer. Kind of, right? This is what men used to be like. They had their collars up and they were pissed. And then they had rocket ships. The good old days? Probably not. I think I remember finding this in a used bookstore and just going like, there's something about this book that I must have in my life. I just need to have this. Detour by Norma Serassi. She paid for love with bitterness, despair, and violence. Don't we all? I mean, let's be honest. Perma Books? The best in fiction and nonfiction. A division of Doubleday. I've never heard of these people. And here I've had this book for how long? Like a very long time. I mean, look at that. Stop. Stop it, everybody. Stop that. Jack Williamson again from that big box I remember, Firechild. Don't know. I just like Jack Williamson's stuff. I just like the way he thinks and I like the way he writes. And so I don't care who knows it. A. Van Vogt, Quest for the Future. Super cool monster. Just monster plus spaceman, monster plus anything. Monsters, rocket ships, robots, spacemen, whatever, those ladies in lingerie. Kent cigarette ads, no. Oh, this is one of these great ones. These Del Rey Best of. Not surprisingly, the Best of Jack Williamson. So I'm throwing these in kind of different piles. These Jack Williamson books will be a little bit better mixed up. But these Best ofs are really good. Collection of short stories. I just threw it on the floor like it didn't mean anything because I had to get really fast to this copy of Unidentified Flying Oddball. We talked about this in another video. Go see the other video. The Dreaming Jewels by Theodore Sturgeon. We also looked at this guy's face. Oh, no. Clowns. People ask, like, hey, remember when clowns were funny and not scary? Like, no. The Star Seekers by Dav Garnett. So many authors that I just have seemed to have disappeared from memory. Even though they had books with covers that were this shockingly alluring. I'm not even kidding. Look at that. Berkeley science fiction novel, first time in paperback. The Star Seekers. An Odyssey across space, time, and credulity. Unbelievable. That's another one where it's like, I see these, I'm like, I haven't seen this in forever. Do I even remember ever getting that? Where did that come from? It might have been in one of those boxes that I did videos of just like pretty recently. And I'm like having that in my hand and I'm like, well, I just want to read this right now. And then get the Treasury of Great Science Fiction for only 10 cents from the Science Fiction Book Club. Those are the ads that I don't mind being in there. It's the cigarettes, like, no. Nope. Alan Glasser, The Demon Cosmos. What is going on there? An evil force raged to destroy the universe. Well, do that. Destroy the universe, like who you? Oh, David Gerald, who is the writer of the TV series of the Trouble with Tribbles, right? That great classic Star Trek episode, and he's obviously written tons of science fiction since then, and Chess with a Dragon. I talked about rocket ships and spacemen and monsters and sea monsters and aliens. Dragons. Right? A dragon on the cover? Yup. Simon R. Green, I read his Deathstalker series and kind of met him a little bit, and he signed a copy of one of them for me at a convention once. I love the Deathstalker series. Where did I come upon this? I don't know. First in a brand new series, Ghost of a Chance, the Ghost Finders novel. He started writing more of that kind of urban fantasy stuff. Like, Jim Butcher kind of stuff. Is that the guy? I haven't really read a lot of that. Ray Bradbury, just one of my favorites. I went through a Ray Bradbury phase as a kid and just read and read and read. This is a pretty good, fairly old copy of I Sing the Body Electric. These are all collections of short stories. Love Ray Bradbury. Oh, you had to buy this at the day. Oh, God. The fake Necronomicon. Right? Like, how many people, poor saps, were like, I'm going to try one of these rituals. It was obviously based on the Necronomicon as created by H.P. Lovecraft, which was never a real book. Everybody calm down. And they, put together, did a good effort to kind of make a fake occult, kind of spell ritual book. But then put it in just a paperback that made it look like... But I kept it. I don't know. I've never read it. I don't know why I had it. Because I'm an H.P. Lovecraft fan and you just had to buy it. And maybe I was going to use it for inspiration for D&D or something like that. I don't know. Or to cast a spell. To bring demons into the world to do my bidding. Christopher Anvil wrote Pandora's Planet. Again. Always looking for the actual yellow daw spine, even though this one's a little on the beat up side. Why not? Groovy guy. And then the even groovier lady. We saw this in a book haul too, the stories by R.A. Lafferty, 900 Grandmothers. Outstanding. I'm counting. I want to see all 900 grandmothers on that. We saw this on a, why not? Just a slim little boom boom. One of the great classics of all time. Definitely read this as a kid at some point, right? Started just reading H.P. Lovecraft, H.G. Wells, The Invisible Man. The original. Go back to the anthology when we'll talk about this. Parnell and Bain, Far Frontiers is really a magazine kind of in the form of a paperback. Good authors in there, why not? We definitely talked about this in the anthology video as well, The City 2000 AD. Yeah. The fashions of 24 years ago that would never wear 17 times infinity. Again, this was on that big anthology video. Definitely watch that. Another Brian Aldiss. I don't know that I've ever really read Brian Aldiss, but I have tons of his books here and downstairs in the sort of main library. 10,000 Brave New Worlds. Starswarm. And another Jack Williamson. Bright New Universe. Look at this. Cool. What's going on there? Kind of rocket shippy kind of thing. Think what it would mean. I'm not going to read the whole thing. Earth Calling All Stars. SOS. Well, there has to be a problem or there's no story, right? The Worlds of Jack Vance. This was another one that we looked at in a previous video with the Apollo spacecraft and this giant alien guy. Oh, that's so cool. Just super cool. Fantastically cool. Thomas M. Dish, 102 H-bombs. This is another one that I feel like I should pull out because it's like should be taken more seriously. But I take all of these seriously. I intend to read these. And even though I'm not really joking that it might take me 33 years to read them all, and by the way, am I going to buy more in the intervening third of a century? You betcha ass I am. Only yesterday. Yeah, we talked about this in one of the other book haul videos, right? An informal history of the 1920s. Not science fiction or fantasy. Or horror unless you are scared of the 1920s. It can't be scarier than the 2020s. The Well at World's End, Volume 1, William Morris. So I read this at random sometime in the next, I'm going to keep saying, sometime in the next 33 years. Like this is actually anything but conjecture. I don't know. Maybe I'll read this next week. Who knows? The Well at World's End, Volume 1. If I like it, I'll read Volume 2. William Morris. Before he started the big talent agency in LA. Not the same guy. The Stars Are Too High. Agnew H. Bonson Jr. We definitely talked about this in a previous video because I was kind of like, Agnew H. Bonson? Who? Well, we will read that when it comes up at random. A. Van Vogt and E. Main Hall. The Winged Man. Really, you're starting to see the pop art influence, yeah. Collage kind of stuff. Sudden Terror. Oh, I'm having problems. Lynn Carter, there's always going to be an adult fantasy. This guy. Amazing. The Spine is Still Yellow. Kesrick. Outstanding. Memoirs of a Spacewoman by Naomi Mitchison. I've heard a lot about this. This is going to be good. I'm excited to have this. I'm excited to have all of these. There's a rocket ship on it. I'm reading it. Death Cell. Another Ron Goulart. Ron Goulart is just like all over this. I've got like tons and tons now of books by Ron Goulart. And I have read some and liked them, which is good news for me. And you know what? Let's face it. It's good news for Ron Goulart. Pensive looking guy there. Love this title. Who doesn't love this title? The Day Before Tomorrow. This was originally written in French. Gerard Klein. Excuse me. Gerard Klein. Won the Jules Verne Prize. So there's that. I didn't know there was a Jules Verne Prize. Look how skinny this is. Tiny little book. Look in good shape. Nice and yellow. Daw number, what is it? I can't see. Oh, this is after they stopped numbering and it just became like a stock number kind of thing. So the collectors aren't snatching this one up. Day Before Tomorrow. By Gerard Klein of France. Space Opera, edited by Brian Aldiss. It's got a rocket ship. It's called Space Opera. In case you were wondering why it was in Phil's big stack of sci-fi books. I moved them over a little bit because this is getting to be difficult for an old man to do all of this bending and stooping and moving and stuff. But I do this for you. You're welcome. Isaac Asimov, 8 Stories from the Rest of the Robots. Remember, Ray, we talked about condition? This book is in bad condition. But Phil, how about the condition? Bad, actually. The Book Rack from Spartanburg, South Carolina, 50 cents. Trade 2 for 1. I've never been to South Carolina, so this one found its way at some point to me somehow. It's in terrible condition, but it's here. Oh man, look at that. Somebody just fully spilled coffee on this. But it's readable, and so I will read it. Sometime in the next 33 years, kerplunk. Anyway, I am going to pull this one out, because this shouldn't have been in here. Philip K. Dick, The Game Players of Titan. Look at this great ace edition. It's in a bag, and it deserves to be. I'm pulling out all the Philip K. Dick. Those go on the shelf with the other paperbacks by authors that are just like sort of extra important to me. Those go with, if you saw those book hauls with Harlan Ellison, J.G. Ballard, and John Wyndham books. Philip K. Dick goes into a separate place. I kind of knew Chris Bunch a little bit and thought, well, I should probably read some of his books. This is the original Sten. This ended up being a pretty long series by Chris Bunch and Alan Cole. Military sci-fi stuff, and why not? And I will get to it at random. This one I found I remember finding this at a used bookstore and it's a sea monster, and so Phil bought it because sea monsters are cool. It's called Between the Devil and the Deep, and that's all I know, and that's all I care. Icy and black, the unexplored waters were an incomparable challenge and an unrelenting terror. Woo! Terrifying. That's another one where it's just sort of like book that appears at random that I just remember having bought, and now I just want to read it. Starting right now. Ooh, this one was definitely in the video. It's Store of Infinity by Robert Sheckley. And I remember we talked in the video about this fold-out Time Life record album set of the moon landings. Find that video. It's crazy. I've never heard of that. I wonder if there's a way to get that. Can you get that on Spotify? Probably not. Another Jack Williams said, CT ship? Antimatter could be pure energy or pure destruction, and one man searched alien space for a way to control it. No, I know. It's Phil from the future here. I had to jump in. I got to call it at like an hour plus already. This is the end of part 1 of the random TBR stacks. Look for part 2 coming super soon. There might even be a part 3. I don't want these to become 2-hour videos plus. There were just a lot of books to get through. There's just a lot of cool stuff to come. A lot of fun cover art. A lot of spacemen. A lot of aliens. A lot of monsters. A lot of rocket ships. Terrific stuff ahead. Thank you for watching this. And I will see you again soon for part 2, and then maybe possibly part 3, depending on how long these videos actually are. Thanks, everybody.